Nice. Okay, hi everyone. I'm going to cheat a little bit because I've actually already given this lightning talk once at the special event we did at the end of last year for Flutter in production. But I really want to kind of launch this idea within the group and have it be a repeating event. And since that was a very, very small event, I think there was 6 or 7 people only, I'm going to give it again. So if you've heard it before, I do apologize. What I'd like to talk about is this is something that the Flutter team does. I think most of us know. Those who don't, the Flutter team has a series on YouTube where they post videos. They're called Widget of the Week, where they highlight a widget in the Flutter framework, maybe because it's new or because they think it's undervalued, or they want to give some extra explanation about it. And they're like very short, sweet, 1-minute videos where they quickly explain how the widget works and how you can use it in your project. And what I would like to introduce is Widget of the Meetup, where we do a similar thing, but we do it in a lightning talk. So you take a widget that maybe was useful in a project that you did recently, or you think is undervalued, or you found somewhere deep in the framework and you want to give some extra attention because you think it's useful. I think that could be nice to have like a recurring thing going with Widget of the Meetup. And what I would like to talk about this meetup is baseline. Because recently I was working on a project and I had the following issue. And yeah, the title of the talk is baseline, so you might already see quite clearly what the issue is. It's this. Inside these fill objects, the text is not vertically centered. It's not correct. And inspecting these widgets, it became quite clear that from Flutter's perspective, the positioning was actually correct. But there's an extra margin in the font itself, underneath the glyphs of the font, which caused this error. And I've encountered this quite a few times now, I think 3 times in total. And we've solved it in different ways each time that we've had it. I think one time we had the designer actually move the glyphs down inside of the font, and we used that new font file in the project to solve it. Another time we just used a different font because yeah, it didn't work. But for this project, yeah, we had to use this font. So I figured, can I solve this with Flutter? And in order to solve a problem, you first have to understand the problem. And to understand the problem, you need to understand how vertical positioning works in Flutter. And in Flutter, vertical positioning is always a function of the widget's top and its height. And that's used to determine where the widget is positioned vertically. Now, from Flutter's perspective, this is correct because the widget itself, it's taken its height, it's taken the function, it's positioned correctly, but we have this awkward space at the bottom which causes it to be offset slightly. So how can we solve this with baseline? How would that work? So what baseline does is it allows you to set the text baseline property to text baseline.alphabetic. And what that does is it takes the baseline of your font and your text widget, and then it positions that baseline a specified amount of pixels from the top of the baseline widget. So what that looks like is you have your letter, your font in the baseline widget. It takes the baseline and then it positions it from the top of the baseline widget. So if you would want to do normal positioning of a text widget within a baseline widget, that amount of pixels that you specify would be your font size. And then you would have a normally positioned text widget inside of a baseline widget. But as you know, we don't have this scenario. We don't have a nicely aligned font. We have this scenario. But because you're specifying the amount of pixels that it needs to be moved down, you can basically just add that extra margin that you have and move it down a little bit more to correct that error that you have. So how did I implement this? Baseline itself is super easy to implement. It takes 3 parameters. There's not a lot going on there. But what I noticed in all 3 of these scenarios that I've had, these fonts that have these extra spaces under their glyphs, is that space, it also sizes up if your font size sizes up. So that means that you can basically calculate what is the ratio of that space against the font size, and you can correct that, and you can basically add like a correction percentage to it, and then automatically correct it based on the font size. So that's what I did, so that you have this baseline corrected text widget, it takes in a correction percentage, and here it defaults to 12.5% because that's what I needed for this project with this font. That's why it's 12.5%. And then on the baseline, you can see that I take the font size, and then I add the font size with that correction percentage to it, which results in this. So you have the pills on the left before with the incorrect text, and then on the right, the fixed version where it's moved down a little bit. That's it. Thank you.